So yeah, that's my 10th to 6th. So we should now go with our top 5. If we go with Ian first, perhaps, to go with his 5 down to. Actually, we won't go to number 1. We'll go 5 down to. Well, actually, there's no point.
Number 2.
Actually, yeah, no, if we do number 2, we'll know what number 1 is, won't we? So let's do our 5. Let's do 5 down to 1 and see how we get on. Right, number 5.
Number 5 for me. Yeah, number 5 for me. Very hard driver. Uncompromising. Again, one of those that was rated more for his tarmac, but he was good on the shale, and that's Richard Ainsworth.
Right. Now, this is a really interesting one. Yeah, I'm interested by this actually. Why? What? Because I remember watching Richard back in the day. It never occurred to me that he was one of the real tough guys. Tough guys in particular. But
I think Frankie Wayman and co would disagree with you. Old man Frank.
Really?
Yeah, up at Aycliffe when he was, I don't know how many finals he won on the trot up at Aycliffe and Hartlepool.
Is that right?
Yeah, and he really did put you in. I've been on the receiving end of them.
Really?
Again, he was a little bit like Ryan was, Rich, because he was very shy and very quiet. And you almost thought it was a bit arrogant.
Right.
But funnily enough, it's more later in life when I've met him that I actually get on with him very well. But yeah, him and his dad, Dick, great team. But I've seen Richard give it out to some people and never back down from it. So yeah, very hard.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately I have to admit the two of the tracks I never went to, mainly because geography more than anything else, was Aycliffe and Hartlepool. I'd love to have gone to Aycliffe, but it was never to be. But yeah, so I missed quite a few of those sort of incidents up there with all the hard, it seemed to be the track where a lot of hard hits went on for some reason. It seemed to be the place for it.
Aycliffe for action.
Absolutely.
Hartlepool was worse because it had the post, but with Aycliffe it had a little bit of a suspended wire where sometimes you'll get away with it, but because the bends were so tight, literally, if you hit them just that little bit harder than you meant, then they were zipping round the wire, and so it always looked good. And so I think that's why it always looked very action packed.
Very, very bumpy as well for a tarmac track. It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was...
Well, you raced there quite a bit as well, didn't you? All the way up from Stevenage.
I raced at Aycliffe. I liked Aycliffe. I done one of my biggest hits at Aycliffe.
Did you? Who was that on?
Yeah, it was on Brian Wharton.
Oh, really?
And
what did you have against him then?
I was going down the back straight, and the axle was bouncing on the bottom of the chassis. Bang, bang, bang. I thought, well, Brian's pretty quick. I'll follow him round. And I went into the corner, hit one of the big potholes, and just as I was about to brake, and my foot went between the brake pedal and the accelerator. So and I hit Brian a real big.
That old excuse.
It was.
My foot slipped. Yeah.
It must have been on the Monday. We were racing at Sheffield, and we both stayed at Boroughbridge. All our crews went out for a meal in Boroughbridge, and Brian was there, and he was holding his back going, "God, I got a bad back, some bloody idiot hit me really hard." And I told him what happened, and he came up with, "Oh yeah, right, that excuse, I'm sure you did." But that's the nature of Aycliffe, because you were bouncing all over the place.
Yeah.
So a lot of drivers are out of control all the time.
Yeah,
it was a fun track, and like Ian says, the bends are really tight, so you really had to brake hard to get around the corners. It's like a even tighter version of the old Bellevue, or the new Bellevue, if you know what I mean. It was really tight. It was a tight track. Good fun track.
Yeah, good. Right. So what was your? I forgot where we are now. What
number 4? Yeah, number 4. It was a toss-up between him or his dad, to be honest, but I've gone for Stuart Smith Jr.
Yeah.
Definitely, the real Stuart sort of came across with years and tears in the fact that, he wants to win. like Ryan, like Tom, like all the top men. And you know, he could give it out, and it's such a shame that his career got short, because as he said himself in various interviews, you know, could you imagine him, Ryan, and Tom now with on it? You know,
absolutely
superb to watch with Stuart. You know, very clever. You know, Andrew was good, and Andrew had his, you know, to be fair, like we talk of those that we missed out, Andrew, you know, some of the ding dongs he had with Robert and Frank.
Yeah, well, that era, well, that time, that period, I mean, they were knocking 7 bells of crap out of each other, weren't they? All 3 of them were. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but for me, just Stuart just had that little bit more of the killer punch. He sort of did. Andrew would do it to go for the win, whatever, but Stuart would make sure you couldn't come back at him.
Yeah,
you know, that's what I think it was with Stuart. If Stuart got you, you knew you'd been got.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. So right, number 3.
Number 3, Pete Faulding.
Right.
You know, I raced with Pete quite a lot. He was a very uncompromising driver. When him and John went at it for the national points, you know, some of the hits like at Crewe, when he put John in, and then John got him at Sheffield, and you know,
Bellevue,
proper hits.
Bradford as well. I remember I've got some video which I must get converted. I've got some great video of that particular season when they were both going for it, and I went virtually everywhere, and I've got some fantastic footage of those two knocking each other into
88 World Final, Ennisford, when I borrowed John's car. You know, the hits that they put on into each other going into the bend. I mean, I haven't put John in my top 10, but John I didn't class as a big hitter. I just classed him as a hard driver.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my view on him as well.
But Peter, you know, Peter was a big hitter, and you know, seen some of his moves that you know, even when he went for Burt at the Hendersford World Final.
Absolutely.
You know,
unbelievable. That was extraordinary. That, I mean, you had to go for it, you know, but yeah, I mean, there's loads of them you can think of. It's interesting with Peter because in his later career, he tended to be a little bit less. He was less of the hard man, really. He tended to. He wasn't. You know, he can't not say calm down. It's not the right phrase. I think because he was doing his, you know, his ASCAR and Euro cars and whatever. I don't know. He tended to not be so forceful with the front bumper, I didn't think anyway. But in that period from sort of well,
that's when I was watching sort of thing.
No, sort of, you know, from 88, 89, 90, up to 93. I think he put John in the fence in the 93 World Final, didn't he, to win it at Coventry. And beyond there, it was just extraordinary. A great talent as well.
I remember Coventry, the Coventry World Final. I can't remember which one it was, and Nigel Wharton led for about straight, and I think it was the one that Tilly won, was it? I don't know, but Nigel Wharton led for a short time, and Peter got hold of Nigel. Jesus, you know, that was a hit.
I have to say, there were a few of them that got hold of Nigel and put him in a fair bit.
Well,
I mean,
Peter again on Nigel, European at Skegness last Bender. He absolutely came from a mile back and put Nigel into the parked car. So, yeah, Peter was my number 3.
Yeah, fantastic. I was just going to say, but just refer to Nigel Wharton, I remember seeing Frankie Waymer Jr. putting Nigel in at Northampton once. And I think it was a brand new Linton car as well at the time. And it was U-shaped by the time he came out of the fence. He put him in so big. But yeah, I mean, Peter, phenomenal, absolutely fantastic driver, quick, again, utterly ruthless. He was there to win races, and if you're in the way, you're going in, you know, and that's it. So so that leaves. Well, I'll tell you, I won't do the last two. We'll come back to those. We'll come back to the last two. And then we'll do, all right, okay, Colin, let's have your 5 down to 3.
My 5, number 5 is Stuart Smith Senior.
All right.
It was what else can you say about Stuart Smith Senior apart from it kind of really saved the sport from in the late 60s, early 70s. You know, it kind of built up around him. But he was a hard driver. I remember asking Dave Chisholm one time who the hardest driver he'd raced against was, and without hesitation, he said Stuart.
Yeah.
He said when he hit you, you knew you'd been hit.
Oh, you're back. You're back everywhere, Ian. you're in here now.
Oh, what am I doing?
Doesn't matter. We'll have 2 of you. We don't mind. We can handle that. We're all right.
That should be.
One Higgins we can handle. Can we handle 2?
2. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, but again, Stuart.
I was just looking at my phone bill. Sorry, Colin. Carry on.
No. But yeah, so Stuart when he hit you hard.
Yeah.
But he raced fair most of the time. Again, we're talking about big hitters as opposed to hard drivers.
Yeah.
Stuart was a hard driver all the time, but when he wanted to, he'd hit you big. When you upset him, he'd make sure you knew about it. I remember Wolfie getting put in at Aycliffe one time, and he went into the wires, upside down sort of thing. Car caught fire, but the first person to get out of his car to help Wolfie get out was Stuart.
Yeah,
you know, it was that sort of driver. He was a hard driver on the track, very hard driver. And
yeah,
that's one that hit on is it Friedhelm Welters at Baarlo?
I know. I've got the video of that up, and I was going to try and see if I could put that up on the screen here, but I can't work out how to do it. I did have it all set up, and now, of course, now we had the issue with the signal. I can't get the video, but that was just
outrageous.
Well, it was so far back, and he was going 100 odd miles an hour.
So you hit somebody from that far back at Aycliffe, you think, oh, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
at Baarlo.
I know, unbelievable. That was just one of the hardest hits I've ever seen.
The fact he couldn't walk when they put him in the car because he'd been on the beer the night before.
Is that right?
might have done his judgment a little bit.
My goodness.
Somebody did tell me that story. They kind of carried him in and they carried him out again.
Yeah.
It was amazing though. It was incredible. I mean,
I was fortunate to race with Stuart in the late 80s and everything. The one thing I'll always remember is when Odsal reopened as Shale under Bammy.
Yeah.
1985, whatever. In the first meeting, I got second in the heat to Pete Falding. And then got through to the final, and I was absolutely flying around the track, or so I thought. This one lap, I lifted, ready to put it into the corner, and he just kept on accelerating. And I'm like, oh God, the throttle's stuck, and I sort of looked down. Next thing, Stuart just glides up the inside of me. Never even felt him get hold of me. He just picked me up coming out the corner, and then... because that was the one that he won the heat final and the £1,000, wasn't it, that Bammy did?
Yeah.
But yeah, he picked me up, and I never even felt him touch my back bumper. That's why I'm not classing him as a big man. He was nice to me. Little yellow.
Doug Cronshaw was always regarded as a similar sort of driver, and John Lund used to spoke to me about once and said you didn't even know he was it was on your back bumper, but he'd be moving you out the way without you even realising. It just had that sort of depth touch, just had that mastery of getting by people now without losing any momentum. That was what it was all about.
I think Stuart used to do that with the low graders. He'd nudge him out the way.
Yeah.
If it's somebody he was racing against with the red tops, he would hit them hard to make sure. Yeah. To make sure they couldn't come back at him at the next corner.
Absolutely. And I think he also gave with Andrew, because Andy was not always renowned for being a hard hitter, and he would try and find a way past without sort of using brute force, until his dad just sort of told him in no uncertain terms, you've got to hit them if you want to win races. You've got to hit them, and made sure they stay hit. And that was,
Yep.
and so, and he changed, and his racing style sort of changed from that sort of moment on, really. And then he did become, you know, that sort of hard hitting driver, but he wasn't renowned for it. That's the thing. So that's why he's not in my list either. Even though, I mean, the thing, the launching at Frankie Wayman Jr. in the, you know, the 99 World Final, from those lunges from halfway up the back straight down to, you know, unbelievable hits from so far off, and you know, and the racing against Speaky and, you know, and Frank, those days are fantastic, but not in our list.
No.
So who have you got in? Actually, that's who have we got now? It's 4. Yeah,
four. I've actually got Kev Smith.
Right.
I've taken on board everything you've said previously, and I quite agree with it. But Kev just seemed to do it. He just seemed to hit people every meeting.
Yeah.
Some of the other guys done it every now and again, but Kev done it every race.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can remember speaking to him on the centre green at a track, and I went up to him and said, "What's wrong with your car?" They said nothing. He said, "I got bored. That I wasn't catching nobody, and nobody was catching me, so I couldn't hit anybody. So I just pulled off."
Got bored.
And I got bored. So I thought, well, yeah, that's kind of that sums Kev up. It didn't matter what race it was. If he could hit somebody, he enjoyed it.
Yeah, good.
And, that's why he's in there for me. But yeah, he may take himself in a couple of times. And again, it didn't matter who he was racing again. If he was his best mate in one of his cars, he'd still hit them.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting, referring back to Stuart Smith Senior, him and Doug Cronshaw, when they were, you know, in their teens, you know, the early 20s, they raced at Aycliffe. They used each other's car, and Stuart put Cronny in the fence in it, and he was in his own car, you know, so, you know, in his car. Didn't care he was wrecking his own car, he just had to put him in. So about number 3?
Number 3, I have got John Lund, number 3.
John Lund, that's an interesting one, right?
Mr. Lund. Yeah, I mean, Lund again was a hard drive. When he first started out, it took him a little while to get going, but he was a hard driver. Then he become, those battles with Fordham were legendary. For some reason, I haven't got Fordham in my list. That gives him away my top 3 anyway. But for some reason, I haven't got him in there. But what sticks out in my mind is, I think it's after the Foot and Mouth in around 2000, Lundy hadn't raced for a little while, and he come out at Hennesford, and he done a last bender on Nick Smith, where Lundy must have been halfway down the back straight while Nick was going in the corner, and it was just one of them all-time classic last benders. Yeah. And I thought, well, he's won it all. He's done everything. He's won loads of finals, but he still had the desire to go for an absolute outrageous last bender. I just think, and when he wants to, when he can hit people, he's a laid-back sort of guy, isn't he? He's in the pits, but when he wants to, when he's on it, he'll go for it.
Yeah,
and that's why he's there.
You know, it's difficult to sort of like we've put Peter in there and you've put John in there, but they were both doing the same thing to each other week in and week out, weren't they?
They were, yeah.
But for me, you know, John, if you said hardest drivers, John would be in my top 2. As for the big hits, you know, I've seen him do them, don't get me wrong. And, you know, he talks about the one at Stoke with, you know, when him, Frank and Andrew were going he made, you know, what he said was the mistake, but he went for the big hit. You know, but very, very, very hard driver, John. And to be honest, I was on the receiving end of a couple off John. You know, I can fully understand why you've got him up there, Collie.
Yeah. Again, he's another one who, it doesn't matter who you are, he would hit you. He would, a fellow red top he knew might get you back, but he still hit him. Yeah. And like I say, is that hard? There's a fine line between a hard driver and a big hitter, I guess. But we were talking earlier. But yeah, I think that one at Hennesford where he was come from way back, that just sticks out in my mind. Is even after winning everything, he still had the desire to win another final.
Right. So that's your 5th down to 3rd. I better do mine, I guess. I've got 5th Peter Folding for all the same reasons we've spoken about already. You know, top driver, tough as they come on track, super quick, super competitive. You know, one of the greats.
Yeah.
Enough said, really. Number 4, I've gone for, there he is, Stuart Smith Senior. Because for the same reasons we've spoken about. I'll tell you what, though, I mean, he did get put in on big time himself quite a lot, didn't he? I mean, because he was the marked man, you know, all those famous ones at Bellevue and at Coventry and all the rest of them, where, you know, his car's completely trashed, and he trashed him as well, you know. So he's been in some big old hits.
He was a target, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. No doubt. And then I've got number 3 is his son, Stuart Smith Jr. For again reasons we said before, just just brilliant to watch, you know. And some of his famous last benders, British Championship, poor old Matt Newson, you know, he thought he had it in the bag, but no, you know. And I've seen him just, you know, particularly when he's not very happy, and he just goes out and gives them everything, gives anybody in the way, they're going in. And I've seen that happen a few times. I remember at Brayfield, I think once, I can't remember, he was in a bad mood, and as a result, a few people ended up with some bent metal at the end of the day. But yeah, fantastic driver. An absolute crying shame that what happened at Northampton, you know, actually ended his career. When he was on the crest of the wave, he was at the peak of his powers. He got everything set up perfectly. He was winning championships at will almost. And you think, right, this is going to be a good year. This is going to be a good period. And it got cut short, and was just a real tragedy, really. So that's down to number 3, which leaves our top 2. And I shall go with Mr. Ian Higgins. I can imagine what they are. I think they're all very similar, really, but we'll see which order they're in. Right, what's your number 2 then, Mr. Higgins?
Well, I'm almost tempted to change.
Really? Right.
I'm almost tempted to swap them round, but originally I had put down number 2 as Rob Speak.
Right. So you're going to stick with that?
I've watched him from him being a nipper in the Mini, fighting with young Frank.
Yeah.
Then they both went the separate ways, him into the 2s, where we used to see quite a lot of him because the 1s and 2s raced together. And then, you know, he came into the F1s with all the furore that Terry George was going to set the world on fire. Unfortunately, the car
wasn't good enough, was it?
Wasn't the car, but the driver was certainly the driver.
No.
You know, I never had a real big do with Rob in the 1s. We had a bit of a do at Arena Essex, but that was more the fact that the car was undrivable that he was running, and he ended up leathering me round, and I sort of gave him it back in the next race, and we sort of spoke about it friendly afterwards, and he just said, I couldn't drive the car. But when he got a piece of kit, you know, and again, uncompromising, he would never back down, didn't matter, you know, if you were a white top, yellow top, red top, if you were having a go at him, get it back.
Absolutely.
Some of the hits that I've seen him put in on people to win big races, and not just in the 1s, I'm talking in the 2s.
No, the 2s, oh no.
You know, some of the hits that he's put in over the years and taken, to be fair.
You
know, he for me, obviously, I'm so tempted to put him as number 1, but he's going number 2 for me. But, you know, probably, again, you talk about hard drivers, he comes with that, but he had that killer punch. If he was half a lap down and he thought he had a sniff, he would go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's totally right. Totally understand where you're coming from there. And so I think we all know your number 1 is.
Yeah, the man himself, Bobby, Big Bad Bobby. Again, it's this hard driver versus, you know, versus the front bumper. I mean, I was petrified of him. I put him in at Long Eaton once, and we sort of hit the wires, and basically, I tried getting up the inside of him a few times. He chopped me. And I just lost me cool and stuck him in at the pit gate, and I went in with him. And he just looked across at me and just wagged his finger, stuck it in reverse and set off. And I thought, he's going to come round and come straight in the side of this car. So I was straight out and over the fence. And then his mechanic, Stevie Houghton, comes across, wagging his finger, going, top of the list, Ian, top of the list. And every time I went out on track, it was like, it's going to come. And to be fair to him, it never did. I think he just intimidated me to death. But, you know, I saw him, a classic that I remember was the World Final at Ennisford, with him and Peter Folding. And he'd said to Pete before the race, you ain't getting around the first corner, mate. And Pete didn't, you know, they did it all anyway. It's a complete restart, wasn't it? And they're there trying to weld Peter's nerf rail up, and Bob's there and going, same again, mate, same again. You know? So, but yeah, you know, I've seen have a few dudes over the years with the likes of Tilsley and a few others, and not just a hard man. If Bob put you in, he meant it, and it wasn't that often he went in with you, you know.
No,
so he's a legend in his own time as far as bumpers go. In my book, anyway.
Perfect. Yeah. What about you then, Colin? What about your 1 and 2?
My number is Rob Speak again. Number 2.
Numbers. Yeah, Rob Speak.
Yeah. Well, you know, we can't add any more. That's already been done. It's just doesn't matter what form he's been in. He's always been a good hard hitter and a hard driver.
Yeah.
And some of his stuff in F2s is legendary.
Yeah.
And coming into F1s, he gave it out and he got it back again, which he probably didn't get so much in the latter days in F2s. Probably people kind of shied away from him because they knew exactly what was going to happen. But in the F1s, he got a bit back, but he didn't shy away. No. And it's a fantastic driver.
Yeah, perfect.
Can't say much more than that.
No. And number 1?
I've got Stuart Smith Jr.
Right. Okay. 3 for a lot of the reasons we've already said, I should imagine.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the reasons. One, I mean, he had big boots to fill, didn't he?
Yeah.
And that kind of put a bit of pressure on him, I think, especially in his early days in F1s. But I've talked to him after he won the World Final, and he said, my dad told me I'm going to be a target now. If people hit you, hit them back twice as hard and they won't bother you. And that's exactly what he did. And it didn't matter, again, who hit him, if it hit him back. Yeah. And a couple of years, well, probably the year before he retired, he had a run-in with Tom Harris, and they were hitting the hell out of each other at Northampton. A fantastic race.
Yeah.
A real great race. And it's what would have been is what we've been robbed of, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely agree with that.
But he did hit people hard, and it didn't matter who you are, he hit them.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, well, my top 2, the same drivers as Ian, but I've got them the other way around. I've got Bobby Burns as number 2, for all the same reasons we've already said, but, you know, just the hardest of hard men outside of the car, let alone inside the car. And phenomenally tough driver on it, just great entertainment. And I've got Rob Speak as number 1. I just don't think I've ever come across a driver who's hit people harder than him, you know, on a regular basis. The picture I got behind me is from the Ipswich World Final, and he that first bend pile up, he started. He's the one that put all, this is your photo actually, I think, Colin, isn't it? And,
it is, yeah.
Yeah, and he put them all in. And he said to me afterwards, it's a bit of a hard hit, wasn't it? He said, but he enjoyed it, you know. But one of the things that sort of makes me think, you know, how feared he was by, you know, by his rivals. It's like feared, but respected and concerned if you were in front of him, was Lee Fairhurst in the British Championship, which he won, I think. But he purposely reinforced that the side rail on his car, you know, the on the right hand side, purely and simply because he knew he was going to get hit from Rob on that first corner if he got in front. So he wanted to make sure the car would stand up to it and stand up to that hit. And sure enough, he got it, and he did stand up to it, and he went on to win. But that was what Rob was all about. Rob was when he came into Formula Ones. You know, he was in that Jamie Davison machine, the one that was far too powerful, really, for the tracks. But you know, he was blitzing his way around then, and then obviously he started the fight with Frank and Stuart, and Andy. And there's that famous incident at Wimbledon that when Frank put him in the fence in the final, and he came out in the Grand National and just without any brakes, I don't think he just stuck Frank in the fence at the down in that third turn, completely trashed the car. I think there's the picture of it there. But it was just great entertainment, fantastic. And that was Rob Speak all over, and for my mind, the biggest hitter has been in the sport. But there you go.
I don't think you can argue with that. I don't think we can argue with any of our choices.
I think they've all been good. I've been pleased with actually that many of them have been quite similar. But we think great minds think alike.
Yeah, we've all sort of. Obviously we've all got our sort of local ones that we, like Colin with in Ireland and stuff like that. But I'm pleased with the fact that we, all three of us are in our top two have got Rob. So obviously,
it's good.
Reputation is precedes him.
Yeah, well, top three. I think we've all got top three. I think we got Stuart. I think I've got Stuart in third and Colin has.
I've got Peter. I've
got Peter in fourth. But top five, pretty much all the same drive. So it's that's interesting. Apart from we've got London, which we could have easily have done.
I could have probably put Bobby Burns in. Probably that Wimbledon meeting where that picture of Frank is. I probably spoke to Bobby before the meeting when he was there, and he was talking about getting into F1s, how he got into it, and he said to me, he hated F1s. He had no interest in them whatsoever. But Chick Woodruff took him to Haringey. Chick's car, Formula One was there, and Chick said to Bobby, "Ever go in that?" Obviously, I don't really want to. He said, "Well, ever go in that because that's the only formula we're going to let you race in the future because you're banned from just about everything else."
Excellent stuff. So that's brilliant.
He took to it, but yeah.
Fantastic. Well done, chaps. That's the first Talking Stox top 10 Zoom debate with an interruption in the middle out of the way. There'll be some others. I've got a few other in the list. We'll be doing the all-time greatest drivers, but not until much later in the year. I don't want to do it quite yet. I've got to make sure I get some subscribers first. And then, and then there's a few others. Unsung heroes I want to do. I want to do top 10 cars, top 10 car builders, top 10 world finals. There's a few of these to come. So it should be a bit of fun if you're up for it.
Yeah.
Three old men chatting rubbish.
Yeah, that's fair enough, isn't it? Exactly. Good stuff. Thank you ever so much, chaps. That was really good. I'm really
no problem. Anytime. Yeah, good to talk to you all.
I remember to record it. That's all. So here's the final list, combined from our three personal top 10s, with Rob Speak getting the vote as BriSCA F1's all-time biggest hitter, with Stuart Smith Jr. and Bobby Burns taking the other podium slots. Do send us your messages with your own top 10s and join in the chat. Next month, we'll be discussing the top 10 rivalries of all time. So we'll see you then.